This episode of Legendary is brought to you by Audible. For a free trial and a free audiobook, head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Gamebreaker TV.
Bing bong, what's up everybody? Welcome to Legendary on this Thursday evening. I'm Gary Gannon, you're watching Gamebreaker TV, and tonight could 5-man dungeons be on the chopping block? The world first race is over, and what the heck is that unannounced feature that is still on the way? All that and more, but first from tankspot.com, Josh Allen, aka Lore.
Hey.
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Good to see you, sir. Good to see you, sir. And joining us because Olivia D. Grace is on holiday. She'll be back soon, but filling in her shoes, not quite as cute. Mike Schaffnit.
Not quite as cute. Oh.
You just need to... There's a yellow dress reference there. I know it. There has to be somewhere.
There
in that.
was. I was actually wondering if he was going to show up with it, but you know, you had to go there. Okay, what's up? All right, so we've got this week lots of. I'm just going to call this show Gary Talks a Lot and Reads a Lot. Gary reads a lot. This episode of Legendary. So we've got so many interviews. There's so many interviews to go over. Let's start with this one interview with Dave Kosak. So buffed.de. Buffed.de. Josh Allen is very buffed.de.
Yeah, I'm very buffed and also .de.
I work out, but they buff.de. They sat.
Should I just grab these real quick?
There we go. Just the rest of the show.
There you go. Buff.de sat down with Kosak last week, and one thing in particular from this interview, which sort of swept the internet by storm pretty much, is that there will be no new 5-mans in Mr. Pandaria. He even tweeted specifically at Gamebreaker, "Hey, Gamebreaker, make sure you pay attention to this. By the way, there will be no new 5-mans coming in Mr. Pandaria." He said, "We have more scenarios on the way, and you'll be able to continue using Raid Finder with the previous raids. But at this time, we are not thinking of doing any 5-man dungeons." All right, first up, he was very adamant about this. Like I said, he literally tweeted at Gamebreaker going, "Hey, pay attention." Hello.
Big bold print, just so you know.
What's going on here? What's the reasoning? Why do you think why aren't there going to be any more 5-mans?
Well, a little bit of what he was talking about, and part of what he even said in that quote there, is like the role of what 5-man dungeons used to be. It was kind of two things. It was either really, really casual, just jump in and do something for a little while content, or it was gear up for the next raid content. And now we have scenarios for the really casual stuff, and we have Raid Finder for the gearing up for the next raid content. So it's kind of like, okay, so what role do the 5-mans serve now? If they were to implement a new 5-man, where does it fit into the grand scheme of things in terms of content? Is it just extra stuff? Personally, I think it'd be fine if it was just extra stuff, but it seems to be the line of thinking is that, well, we've got scenarios and we've got Raid Finder, why make 5-mans?
Yeah, and I mean it's something that I recently have made the shift to being a much more casual player than I ever have. And it's like I found myself when I'm logging in, I'm not queuing for dungeons to kill my time anymore. Like as soon as I no longer needed the gear that was necessary to do them, they kind of just fell off my priority list of things that I wanted to accomplish. That, you know, I have so many dailies that I can get done to get Valor Valor gear. there's so much more to it now. I think that as Josh said, it's not kind of what people do to kill time anymore, even if they're at the utmost casual level.
But the thing is, are the scenarios in Raid Finder actually a good replacement for the 5-mans? I mean, does it actually fill that hole?
I think what makes a good replacement for the 5-mans is honestly the challenge modes. More 5-mans. No, the challenge modes, because the people who were constantly running dungeons were people doing it for the achievements and people doing it for to help maybe run friends through it. And it's like the longevity of it is going to last longer, I think, in the challenge mode sense than it would really just because we're adding more. I don't feel like even gosh, when they brought in Rise of Zandalari, which was 4.1, I think people maybe did those for 1 to 2 months, and the development time that they went into those dungeons probably held back a lot of features that they were able to release, and that's honestly like time that they could be spending elsewhere if people are only going to be in these dungeons for 1 or 2 months maybe.
See, I don't know. I kind of disagree that challenge modes are the logical progression for 5-mans. There's certainly a lot of people who like 5-mans who can go do challenge modes. Not to disagree with that at all. Like, a lot of people who are looking for 5-man content should be doing the challenge modes if you just really want that sort of content. But I feel like the fact that challenge modes are difficult because they're timed, and I mean they're difficult in terms of getting through them, but the timer is like the extra challenge there, right? It's like, how fast can you get through that? It makes it feel like you constantly have that pressure behind you of we've got to go faster. We need to be pulling. We're going faster. That's kind of an extra bit of pressure that I feel like a lot of people just didn't want in that sort of content. But at the same time, a scenario doesn't provide the feeling of, well, I'm a tank and there's a healer. People like the feeling of, I'm the healer. I'm going to heal some 5-mans. I'm going to tank some 5-mans. Or I'm the DPS. I don't have to worry about things coming over and punching me in the face because the tank is doing their job. I do think that 5-mans do provide a little bit, like the actual 5-man content itself is still fun to go through, and I don't feel like 5-mans going away is really a good thing overall. I don't know.
I mean, do you think that that's like sort of going to be the precedent, like going forward, that the future of 5-mans is kind of like it's got a lifespan and it's not the extent of the entire expansion? So basically, like, run some while you're leveling, and then just until you're geared enough for LFR, and then basically don't do them anymore? Is it just kind of?
I mean, I feel like there's still a place for 5-mans. It's just Blizzard needs to find where to fit it in the grand scheme of things. And part of it is that they're still kind of trying to figure out what they're doing with scenarios too. Like, scenarios have been sort of all over the place, and I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit here too. But scenarios have been all over the place so far, so it's kind of like we have scenarios now that cover this wide area that we're not sure exactly where they fall in there yet, but it's certainly overlapping at some points with where 5-mans are supposed to be. I don't know, I would like to see 5-mans come back in, I've brought this up before, I would love to see the idea of 5-man raiding, like in the sense of having a 5-man dungeon that it's like old school Dire Maul tribute runs, or old school, like, working through Strathholm or something, or even in like Karazhan or something, except instead of 10 people, it's 5 people. Something that you're going to go in there, and it might take you a little while to get through, and it might be something that you come back to that lockout later or something like that. I think that'd be a good direction to go with 5-man dungeons in the future. I do feel like...
Not that... Yeah.
I just kind of feel like 5-mans in Mists of Pandaria, they are pretty much just an afterthought. It's kind of like something that you do a grand total of 4 of them while you're leveling, which is another thing entirely, because you literally only get 4 of however many 5-mans while you're leveling. It's been really frustrating. I've been leveling a monk lately, trying to do it just through dungeons, that it gets so boring running the same 4 dungeons over and over and over again. But then once you get to max level, you might run each one once, or maybe twice, and then you're done with 5-mans, ever. It's like, ugh, I don't know, I don't really like that very much.
I like your idea of kind of creating a raid 5-man that you can kind of come back to with groups of friends and go back to that. But I think what we've seen in the past with ICC and Rise of the Xanalari doesn't really truly count. I think that was kind of just as filler content. But where we've seen additional 5-mans play the best role is where or end time. That was what I was thinking of. We see them play when they are helping tell the story that leads into the raid. And that's what we saw with the 3 that we got at the end of Cataclysm and the ICC, the 3 that we got right before going into ICC. And it helped set, it wasn't necessary, and if you didn't want to necessarily run the dungeons, you didn't have to, but I think why people remember those so fondly is because it set up a good idea of what was going on into the raid story-wise.
I'm like slightly, I mean, I would have thought, I wish I could see some of the numbers behind this of why they would make the decision of how many people are running them. Because I would have almost thought that like more people like would be sort of demanding more 5-man content, just seeming that I would imagine
tons of people were running them in Cataclysm, but that was because you had to, because that was how you Valor capped. So
right, but I would almost imagine at this point in the lifespan of the game that there's a lot, you know, obviously there's always the top end large guilds still running like, you know, more man content, but at the same time I would think that there's a lot more people out there who would be just have a lot easier of a time for them to get 5 people together and to go run some of this content. But I'm wondering if at this point like they sort of look at, because this has to be somewhat of a like slightly of an analytics decision, right? I mean, don't you agree that they must have looked at this and they're just sort of going like, there's more people doing certain content than others and we're going to focus over here and push them over? Like,
I don't know. I feel like it might be a result of a couple other things too. Like one of them is the scenarios where they came in and said, we're going to have this content that you can just jump into. This is our snack-sized lunch break content, right? It takes like 10, 15. Some of them take a little bit too long to get through, but it's like 10, 15-minute content most of the time. And then you have, they wanted people to have to go through the different raid tiers, which is also a good change, I think, is to actually have people gearing up through raiding for raiding instead of having like, oh, End Time came out, so now you go and do those 3 dungeons, and now you're ready for Dragon Soul or something. I felt like it's good that they have the idea of you gear up through each tier of content. But it does leave the question of where does 5-man content fit in with that? And I think that's kind of where what it came down to in my mind, is that they said, okay, well, we did this, and we did this. Where should we put the 5-mans? Oh, there's no place to put the 5-mans.
Couldn't you create a 5-man? No, because that would throw it off. It's if you create a 5-man that offers a similar level gear at a higher raid tier, then everybody will just start chain running those dungeons for the gear.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of am still gravitating towards the idea of the 5-man raiding, where it's something that it is actually challenging 5-man content that you have to get through. And maybe it's just something you can do in alternative to running LFR, but it's still going to be a significant time investment to do that. And if you just have a little bit of time, you'd still rather just run an LFR.
All right, let's talk about, you mentioned scenarios before. So he goes to talk a little bit about scenarios, particularly in response to the single player scenarios that were added in 5.2. He said, we've definitely been experimenting with scenarios since 5.0 launched. And we have a lot of feedback on what we think are good scenarios and what are bad scenarios, on what's working and what wasn't. In patch 5.2, we tried using the scenario technology to do a few solo scenarios just to see how that works. He says, one reason we did those is to help players who are missing out on the island right now. When they join us again, a lot of the island might already be unlocked, but we still want them. Blah, 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 blah. We still want them to feel as though
you're turning into me. Like, can you not read?
They got to participate. There's like 9,000 quote cards from Josh Allen this week, so he's just like quote card, quote card, quote card. He says, when they join us again, a lot of the island might already be unlocked, but we still want them to feel as though they got to participate in that. He finishes up by saying, but I don't think we would want to do a whole lot more single player scenarios. I think we will save them for very special events or very special skill challenges because we like group content and getting people together. So first up, have you guys gotten a chance to check out any of these solo scenarios? I know you have, Josh, right? How do you feel about them?
Yeah, I did all of them on the PTR, and they're actually really good. Like, it's actually really awesome how well it works out. I see people in the chat room going, scenarios are so boring, and I'm saying, you didn't do the solo ones on the PTR. You just wait until more of the island and life. It's kind of frustrating from the perspective of somebody who's done them already, saying, but they're actually really, but you haven't done them yet because the island isn't unlocked because you didn't do them on the PTR. But no, seriously, the ones that are coming as part of the Isle of Thunder, they are actually really good. You're only ever going to do them once, but they're really good when you go through them. It's really enjoyable, and I'm actually like I'm looking forward to doing them again, and I'm gonna be like getting alts through that so that I can do those again because they're actually just fun to go through. It's an enjoyable experience.
And see, I'm one of those people who haven't got a chance to run it on the PTR, but I think that, like, again, kind of going back to what I was saying about the dungeons, is that I really like the reason why they said they're existing is to allow the people who maybe didn't get to participate in the island the chance to kind of still see the way it unlocks, because by the time that, you know, new players or old players make it there, they won't get to have experienced why everything it is the way that it is. And I truly think, especially as we go forward, the way that Blizzard's trying to present their information and their story, I think that they want people to feel attached to the game and understand all the bits and pieces. And I think it's a great idea to keep those coming behind still feeling like they're a part of the ones that are affecting the world.
How are the three-mans working out? I know they've been doing a lot of tweaks and kind of the way that the three-person scenarios work. Are those worth running? How are they working out?
Now that you can get rep from them on an alt, they're worth running once a day for the rep bonus. And if you're trying to Valor cap, they're actually decent to run once per day. Just trying to Valor cap too, especially now that in 5.2 they actually bumped up the Valor gains that you get from the longer ones, so that, like, if you run Brew Moon Festival, which takes like 1,000,000 years to actually get through, you actually get a decent amount of Valor for your time. So that's basically what it is it's good to run one once a day if you need one of the extra rewards. Anything else, and it's not really, like, I wouldn't sit there and just spam run scenarios. That's still kind of a waste of time.
Remember back quite a while ago now, I mean, we talked about this on Legendary I don't know what episode ago, but way back, Tom Chilton had said that he actually thought that Mists of Pandaria is big, and I think I may be misquoting him, so I won't quote it, but I think he referred to it as Mist's big game changer. Were scenarios. Do you think that is that held true? Is it the game changer that they thought it was going to be?
From a technical standpoint, it seems like something that they could use to implement Mist's big game changer. What they've done with it so far, no, not really. It's cool. It's nice technology, and like I said, I do like the solo scenarios and what they're doing with them in 5.2. I really liked the Warlock scenario. It's a great way to have one little, like, really, really challenging one-person content. But other than that, I wouldn't at all say that it's something that's, like, changed the way that, like, it hasn't come in and said, no, everything's different now. The game has changed because of scenarios. No, not really. It's just kind of filling in for what 5-mans used to be.
I mean, could it be also just because, like, you know, they're somewhat new to the game and they're still trying to work out all the kinks? I mean, he even talks about how, you know, they were I feel like there's still sort of Kosak's, you know, interview there. It sounds as if they're almost still just testing things out and actually trying to figure out what the players like as far as, like, creating these things. It could just be maybe.
Sure.
Is it just that it's in its infancy?
Well, yeah, and that's why I say from a technical standpoint, in terms of the tech behind it, it seems like something that they can use to do really awesome stuff with it. But they just haven't yet, basically.
All right, there's one other thing from this interview I definitely need to bring up. David mentioned an upcoming scenario that we haven't actually heard too much about here. So he said, 2 of the new scenarios in the patch are actually tuned to be very difficult for solo players. One of them is the Warlock scenario, and the other one is part of the Legendary Quest. Rathion will have a legendary scenario for you to do in 5.2 that really tests your skill as either tank, healer, or DPS. If you've been only sort of half playing your class in LFR, you will really have to step up in order to complete this one. How big is your EP? Are you ready to step up? What do we know? Do we know anything? Do we know anything about the scenario at all? Was it even on PTR?
I don't believe it was ever on PTI. I've managed to totally miss any mention of this scenario before. So maybe there's something that's been floating around out there. It is basically, ever since Blizzard started using Twitter, it's impossible to keep up with everything nowadays. But I haven't seen anything about this otherwise. I have no idea what this could actually be.
Now, what about the fact that the warlock scenario is really difficult, but it's totally optional? I mean, what do you guys think? Is it okay to have to do something that hard to get your legendary meta gem? How do you think this is gonna sit with people?
Josh, I know you're about to like scream absolutely. You said I think it's been on After Dark before where you don't mind the personal test that goes into it. Like if you honestly have to work, it's a legendary, and I feel like I'm just repeating you. It's a legendary. It's supposed to be difficult to get. It's not supposed to come easy. And honestly, like if you need practice to become good at solo content, go to the Brawlers Guild, because that's kind of what it just sounds like. It's going to be really hard solo content, and it's a great way to practice being really good at soloing through stuff. So go practice with the Brawlers Guild, and then maybe when you reach a higher rank, you'll be able to play. I think it's great. Make people work for it. It's a legendary weapon.
Yeah, I think it's gonna come down to the tuning for sure. But oh man, the tiers are gonna be delicious. The amount of tiers that are gonna happen as soon as someone who's been like
Battle Druids can't do it.
Well, no, from the sounds of things, I'll be surprised if they tune it to where it's as difficult as the Warlock chain, or at least how the Warlock chain is right now. Because you also have to remember that people are going to have a lot better gear by the time this even rolls around. Because you have to collect all of the different stuff for the legendary chain already before you can even get to this step of the chain. It's still several weeks out, so people will have geared up quite a bit. And I feel like as long as it's tuned to where someone in LFR gear can do it, maybe it'll be challenging. But as long as it's tuned to where someone in LFR gear can do it, then it's fine. It's just going to be amazing when it comes out, and all the people who have been half AFK for every fight, never bothered to even look at the dungeon journal, don't even know what's going on in half these things. They're dead for most of the fights, and they go, well, you guys just kill it for me. Oh my god, when they all of a sudden, when they can't get their legendary meta gem, they're going to be like, I've been working so hard to get this. I deserve it. And all this work that I'm going to laugh.
Form rage! Josh is going to sit back and giggle. Speaking of forms, did I tell you guys that we have new forms at GameBreaker.tv? It's form.gamebreaker.tv. Don't know if you know.
What? That's so difficult to remember.
Forum. I'll repeat it again, maybe 6 times. Forum.gamebreaker.tv. GameBreaker just launched a brand new forums this week, and they're effing awesome. And if you guys have not checked them out, get over there and sign up and register and start posting, because they're actually really good and they're really friendly. Sorry, I diverted that. I saw a plug hole and I just needed to fill it. I just went for it. Speaking of another plug, all right, we got more interviews to go over. Tons more to go over. But you guys excited for season 3 of Game of Thrones?
I have to get caught up. I stopped halfway through season 1, but I need to get caught up.
I've got to start. I've had this conversation with you, and I had this conversation with my roommates. If you start me on a show with these, like, if you don't treat me nicely, at least for the first 2 episodes, and I don't feel like I can follow all your thousands of really old English names, that just, I get lost. All right. And I've been scared. Shut
up, both of you. You guys are terrible Game of Thrones nerds.
Well, yes. I am a pretty bad Game of Thrones nerd.
I'm super psyched. No, season 3 is gearing up, and I'm so psyched because I'm listening to book 1 on Audible.
Oh, well then there's an easy way for me to do it.
They set forth at daybreak to see a man beheaded, 20 in all, and Bran rode among them, nervous with excitement. This was the first time.
Dude, listen to his voice. I dream of having a voice this good.
And his brothers to see the king's justice done. It was the 9th year of summer and the 7th of Bran's life.
All right, I am now listening to book 1 of Game of Thrones as I'm getting psyched on Audible. You guys have not checked out Audible. Have I got a deal for you? Free 30-day trial. Get a free audiobook. All you got to do is go over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Use that URL. Sign up today. Download the app. Put it on your phone or smart phone device, your iPad or whatever you got there. Download a free book today. I am listening to Game of Thrones, book 1, A Song of Fire and Ice, getting prepared for season 3. And I suggest you two get the effed line and seriously just man up. and learn about the Game of Thrones, because you're obviously just so sad.
Sorry.
I feel really bad. Go over right now, audible.com/gamebreaker. Sign up for your free 30-day trial. Download the app, like I said. Put it on your phone. It's an audiobook. You get a free audiobook with that URL. They're going to give you a free audiobook, so you have to pick a free audiobook. Check it out. If you like it, basically, you pay a little monthly fee and you download audiobooks, and it's awesome. I've been a fan forever. I love them so much, and they're an awesome sponsor right here on Gamebreaker TV. And there's a lot of good fantasy books. Finishing up the Neverwinter series with all the Dungeons. They have like all the Dungeons and Dragons books on there, which are awesome. They just came in 2013. I was super nerding out. They actually sent me an email like, new Dungeons and Dragons books available now. I'm like, oh my god, I'm completely nerding out right now. Oh my god, R.A. Salvatore books all on. Let me download them all now. Okay, I just spent way too much money. Let's move on. So go over, check it out, download it.
R.L. Stein Goosebumps? No.
Shut up, Schaffnit. You don't know anything about Game of Thrones. Go.
Armageddon! Goosebumps!
All right, let's move on. More interviews to go through. Blizz Planet got a chance to talk to game director Tom Chilton. I'm so old. Every time I see his name, you guys don't even know this band. I'm gonna bring a banner. What's Schaffnit doing? He's like totally having he's
just leaving.
Out? What's he doing?
He's gone.
What happened? Is he having like an aneurysm? What is he doing? He just like freaked out, and he doesn't even hear us because he took his headphones. He ripped his headphones off. What is he doing? What happened? He's not.
I'm trying to fix my internet. It's going slow. I was doing that on a break on purpose.
I thought you were like getting a cat from behind the monitor or something. You're like, damn, cat's making so much noise. Gotta get him out of here.
Clearly, Wi-Fi is not strong enough, so I went to get my Ethernet cable. That's what that just was. All right.
Blizz Planet got a chance to talk to Tom Chilton this week, or is it last week? I don't remember. They led off with a pretty big question. Now 6 months after MOPS release, check this out. What did you screw up the most? Okay, so maybe it wasn't their exact phrasing in the question. They didn't actually deliver it like that, which would have been awesome. But they did ask him how he felt how the expansion was going. And he said this. He said, I'd say that for the most part, our values have stayed intact in terms of what we are trying to accomplish with Pandaria and what we ended up delivering. He says, if we can go back in time and do things differently, there's not really a huge list of things that we would probably do differently. The most notable would probably be a slight change to how our reward structure in the end game worked as it relates to how mandatory daily quests felt. Josh, you love dailies. Would you agree with that? Other than dailies, which we've beaten to death on this show already. How are you liking Z-Mops?
It's definitely a very good expansion so far. It's shaping up to be, in my mind, one of the, if not the best expansion. In fact,
isn't that pretty awesome?
It's shaping up so far to be the best expansion.
And you know what's so awesome about that? Like, do you remember? Think back to those episodes where episode 118. I don't remember what episode we were on when we were talking about this. But leading up with
this is episode 118, so it wasn't this one.
Definitely wasn't this one. But I remember like all those months of the marketing it, because I'll call it like a softer expansion for them. We didn't have the big villain. We didn't have it didn't feel as epic. And we kind of gave it a lot of shit for that. Like we kind of we did, right? I mean, we were all like, but is this gonna work? It's pandas, blah blah blah. And how effing were we wrong? Because I think Josh's sentiment is pretty much across the board that most World of Warcraft players, especially the ones they're all very happy with it. And they all it's funny how Josh said it too, because everyone I talked to kind of says it the same way. They're kind of like, I don't know if I want to admit this, but it might be the best expansion they've ever done.
Well, here's the thing. It's like they didn't come out. It's hard. It's a hard thing to say because they didn't come out and do something crazy like in Wrath of the Lich King, where they were like, "Oh my God, they've made this game so casual friendly now," and it ballooned up to 12 million subscribers at some point. They didn't do anything like in the Burning Crusade, where they were like, "We're just going to really focus super hard on the raiding content. We're going to have the best raid content we've ever delivered," like they had in the Burning Crusade. It's not something that they just sat down on the set of the game. This is our one best thing. They just kind of put out a lot of really good World of Warcraft. And if you like World of Warcraft, there's a lot of really good World of Warcraft in Mr. Pandaria.
And that's the thing. Isn't that the demographic at this point? Like, you know, you're not really like at this point, like you're keeping the people who are happy, and then you're trying to show the people who like maybe aren't playing right now, like, hey guys, there's a lot of really good World of Warcraft here. Come on back.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like they kind of they had to prove that they had always said that you know, we didn't believe them because we hadn't seen it before, like you said, with having larger bosses. But the one thing that they wanted Mr. Pandaria to be was kind of a breather before they get back into these crazy arch nemesis villains, a chance to build up new characters, new story, new plots. And that's what it's been. I feel like that's where they've been spending their time. Is they've been equally dividing it into dailies and raids and PvP and you know, farming tillers. They're just kind of trying to create a world that you can kind of immerse yourself in versus, hey, I'm jumping on World of Warcraft to raid. Even though that's what people still do, I feel like they were trying to bring back a living, breathing world that offered a lot to many different people, and we didn't necessarily believe they were going to be able to pull it off because they had taken such different directions the past 3 times.
I had a small
I feel like
fast in the hills. Rob thought he was a wildling. His sword sworn to Mance Raider, the king beyond the wall. It made Bran's skin prickle to think of it.
Oh.
Can we add that voiceover to World of Warcraft lore?
It made Lore Walker Cho attempt to walk through places and do stuff because he's a bear.
You just went into that went from that guy's name who I don't remember to Bill Cosby. You went into like Bill Cosby. You went into like Bill Cosby, and then all of a sudden it's like you're gonna get the pudding pop. He's a bear.
He's a bear. Yeah. I think other than the dailies, Mr. Pandaria is definitely their expansions, the best expansion so far. And I feel like a lot of people have sort of missed the memo that you don't have to do the dailies anymore. You don't have to. Everything that you can get with dailies. Yeah, everything that you can get with the dailies, you can get doing something else now. They fixed that. Stop whining about dailies. If you don't want to do them, don't do them.
But dailies, Josh, dailies. They're the
Stop
worst
whining.
thing ever.
Stop whining. Stop whining.
Stop whining.
That was good. It didn't go into Bill Cosby mode. They also asked. This is something that we talked about a lot as well. They asked if Blizzard, they asked him if they thought that Blizzard could keep up with the faster pace of content releases that they've been kind of on schedule with, and he said, "It's certainly something we plan to keep doing. In fact, we're hoping that our capabilities continue to expand as this goes on. Hopefully, this is the slowest you will ever see us in the future." Okay,
That's
really?
setting the bar high. That's
Really?
setting the bar pretty high.
They're actually trying to push out content even faster than they have been pushing out content lately.
Apparently. They're like,
Apparently,
you know, whatever. It's the fastest we've ever put content out ever.
I don't want to say that
Slow.
I don't want to say that statement to me isn't, hey, we're going to put it out faster. I think he's just saying, like, no backslide from here. We're going to keep it this pace, if not give you something faster. I don't think he's like straight up saying, guess what? We're going to do everything faster than we've already been doing. That's stretching it a little thin, don't you think?
Didn't you kind of just say that? You were like, well, he's not saying that they're going to do it faster, but he's saying that they're going to do it either not slower or faster.
I'm just saying, no, I felt like you guys were taking the standpoint of like, he's like, oh yeah, we're like, this is, you think we're going fast already, just wait and see.
Well, he says, hopefully this is the slowest you will ever see us. That means that, hey, we have goals of either at least sticking to this pace or we're going to go faster.
I just read it as no backsliding. Like, keep it the pace they're at. That's
Whatever it is, I think. Well, I mean, it sounds kind of weird to ask, but at what point? How does it feel right now? Is content, is there a point where content just starts coming out actually too fast for players? I'm sure there is that point. There definitely is. But it's usually always on the opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, most MMOs just suffer and cannot sustain. There's no way that they can create content as fast enough for players to consume it.
I feel like by the time we got the announcement of 5.2, it sounded a little bit early to some people, but by the time we actually got it, it kind of rolled around to being a good moment for them to release it.
I think a lot of people weren't even finished with 5.0 content at that point, though. There's still people running through that.
A lot of people weren't finished with 5. I feel like it came at a good time. A lot of people weren't finished with 5.0, but I think that's fine if it's something where you just go, well, we didn't finish the 5.0 content and a new patch. Like, they can't wait for everybody to be done with it before they come out with it. It was fun. I had a question that someone sent in for PST a while ago. I didn't end up using it, but someone was like, what if Blizzard came out and said, we won't release this content until these guilds clear everything. And we had a second race. And I was like, looking at that and going, oh yeah, let's just name some guilds where everyone else can't have content until these guys clear everything. That'll go well for them.
Yeah, everybody would be at recruitment in those guilds would go through the roof of like the best raiders in the world. They'd just be like, guys, we need to go to this guild now.
No, they need to make months behind. That'd be amazing. The forums would just be going effing crazy. Be like, Josh Allen, I hate you and your hair. Hurry up.
Yeah.
Hurry up!
How come you haven't finished this yet? God, you're so bad at this. Like, people would tune into my stream, and if I slipped up even a little bit, like, I messed up my rotation a tiny little bit, they'd be like, you cast Haunt half a second too soon, you're gonna clip it, you're doing it all wrong, this is why we can't have nice things.
Even if you beat the encounter, you'll have, like, a laundry list of things that you did wrong, just yelling at you.
The YouTube comments are pouring in. All right,
But no, I think there is a point where content starts to come out too fast. I think it's okay if we get to that point and then say, let's chill it out a little bit. I think.
You think we're at that point? Do you think we're kind of close on? But do you think we're close on that cusp? Do you think we're close to that cusp on the point? You think you're getting really close?
The big question comes in terms of tuning. They can release content as fast as they want, and then they would just have to tune the content to be slightly easier so that people can clear it faster. Like if they're saying, okay, well, we're going to come out with a new raid instance in 3 months. As long as they tune the content to where you can clear everything in 3 months, then it's fine. But there will become a point where all the stuff is so easy that people are just like, well, we're just kind of sleepwalking through all these bosses. There isn't that challenge. Like, people will miss that challenging boss that took them a couple weeks to get down experience, which they wouldn't be able to have anymore. So I think at that point, that's when it would become too easy. But I think it's okay if we hit that point first and then say, all right, now the content's coming out too fast. Let's slow it down a little bit. Instead of being a little bit worried about, well, I don't know, Blizzard, maybe you should hold on to that one a little bit longer. It might be too early so far. No, bring it on is where I'm feeling at this point. If you can push out more content faster, then go for it. I'll let you know when it's too fast.
Josh will send you a memo. He'll tweet. He went on to actually talk about how they've actually managed to keep up this pace. And he said, essentially part of what we've done is separate part of the team into its own group that works on the odd number patches like the 5.1 and then 5.3. So there's some team members dedicated to that content, 5.1, 5.3, possibly 5.5. And then the rest of the team works on those big tiers, the 5.0, the 5.2, the 5.4, et cetera, et cetera. Also, just staffing up a little bit more, we've continued to grow the team over time. We're at an all-time high with as many people as we have on the team, and we expect to continue to increase as time goes on. So, I don't know, the split between even and odd patches, I think we already knew about, and it seems to be working for the most part. Obviously, stuff's coming at a faster clip. I don't know. Seems like they're definitely on a better sort of got an internal solution that's working better to split the teams up like that.
Yeah, and it seems like that's kind of how they've managed to fit themselves into having more people on the team. Is they say, okay, well, we're gonna have the like big content team work on the big content patches, and then we have these little mini patches that everybody else just sort of plays around in, right? Like we have other people that come in and we can just it's a playground where they say, okay, we've got this environment, let's come up with some content to put out as just a minor patch in between the two of them. I don't know, it seems to be working out really well, and it does mean that content comes out faster.
Anyone else surprised that Blizzard's hiring?
After they just laid off so many people like less than a year ago. But that could be great. They could be on the upswing from where they are.
Wasn't that a lot of customer service people?
Staff.
That was
Yeah, it
also
was
that's a lot
mostly
of
support
support.
staff.
Redundancies.
Yeah, but I think they they've always seemed to kind of be against they've always seemed to want to keep their teams really small. So it is interesting that they're hiring more people now at this stage of the game.
Yeah, I kind of
Are you
feel
trying?
like,
Go ahead.
well, no, it's funny because they during Cataclysm, a huge part of why they were talking about how like we had these small raid tiers and it took so long between content, and people were like, why don't you just hire more people? And they were like, well, we can't just hire more people because that wouldn't work. And now they're like, yeah, we just hired some more people. That's how content came out faster. Weird.
Do you think that as things push closer to maybe not hearing about Titan, is they're hiring more people because they are finding that they need the people that still were left over on WoW over maybe helping out with Titan, and they're needing to bring in more people to kind of cover those grounds? Because we're going to have to hear about it eventually.
Yeah, that's possible.
He said that though that they're at an all-time high with the team. Like the team is the biggest it's ever been. So that means that even if they are just replacing people from Titan, they still swelled the team a little bit. The World of Warcraft team is bigger now. So yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it's that 5-1 or the even and odd split is really where it helped out here, because they basically, from the sounds of things, they brought in a team to make those even numbered patches or to make those odd number patches so that the old team could work on the even number patches.
One other thing he said in here, he said possibly a 5.5. What's that say for expansion timing? I mean, if they're not sure that they'll need a small patch after 5.4.
I mean, Josh, and I was gonna take it back to that as well. Is Josh, you've talked about how patch cycles you kind of were expecting 3 tiers and kind of felt like we might see a announcement at BlizzCon this year. Do you think at this point, Raid of Thunder's out? Development time has to be, even though it's out and they're probably still fine-tuning, they're probably at this point thinking of the next raid. And we already know that the Siege of Orgrimmar is coming as the final raid. So do you think that they're maybe still throwing something up in the air of another raid to slide in there, or is maybe 5.5 just that in between?
Well, it would be
content.
It'd be
expansions.
It'd be an odd numbered patch unless they just decide with the 5.5 that they're done with that. But it seemed like he was referencing. Yeah, he said there's team members dedicated to 5.1, 5.3, and possibly 5.5. So he was saying that the odd numbered team was dedicated to that one. So it doesn't seem like. It seems like if he's saying possibly a 5.5, then there's no 4th raid tier. There's no raids planned past whatever's in 5.4. And it's kind of a question of, are we going to need that little bit of extra content between 5.4 and the next expansion? And I don't really know how to, because it seems like that little bit of extra content would be good no matter what. Like why not do that? Is it something like, well, maybe they want to put those guys towards working on the next expansion or something? Is that what that is? I don't know. It's interesting. It does make it seem, though, like 5.4 is going to be the last raid tier no matter what. And if that's in 6 months from now, BlizzCon's too late for an expansion announcement. We need to know about that earlier.
Right.
They're just going to come out with the expansion at BlizzCon? Like, here it is, everybody.
Here it is, released. There you go. All right, last bit. Go ahead. You have something?
I did, but I think I kind of lost it. So never mind.
All right, good job. Last bit from this interview before we move on. You guys remember we've been asking, we asked Ghostcrawler in the interview we did, and we've been trying to figure out what this unannounced game changer he tweeted about quite a while ago. So they asked Tom actually about this, and he said we will probably see it in the 5.4 neighborhood if we are able to get it done in time. As far as hints, a lot of players in the past have suggested that they be able to do older content. So it's probably something that goes along those lines. What do you guys think? There you go. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
And come all on, the puzzle pieces fall into place.
Blizztradamus. Any guesses as to what it could be?
Okay, so it's kind of funny. After I read this, all of a sudden I remembered a whole bunch of stuff that Blizzard has talked about in the past. Ghostcrawler, a while back, was talking about, people were asking about LFR queues, and they were saying, this was just a couple months ago, And they were saying, well, once tier 15 LFR comes out and people start doing that, how are we going to get queues for tier 14 LFR? And he said, that's not going to be a problem. We could fill an LFR queue for Molten Core if we wanted to. So that's actually an example that he gave. And we kind of went, wonder why. And then I also remembered way back, I think this was before beta. It might have been right. It was going to be right in that neighborhood regardless. But ages ago, I was interviewing Ian Hazakostas for Tank Spot, and we were talking about challenge modes. And he said, he like hinted towards the idea that maybe they could actually use that to bring people, they could use that scaling to bring people back to a lower level for old raids. So maybe that's what this is. Maybe they're going to let us actually go back to old raids and just do old raids again. So everyone can go back and see that no, Burning Crusade raiding really wasn't any better than this Pandaria. It wasn't. You can go back and do it. It's not as good.
What do you think about? What do you think the demand and the community? I mean, obviously, if it's LFR, because here's the thing: like LFR is not the same as raiding, and yeah, they can't present a alternative for people to go back and raid like they used to, and they can bring people's levels down. But I don't think it's something. I feel like it's going to be something that you can't necessarily queue for, because if it has the level of difficulty that LFR does, what's the point? I mean, that's the same as just grabbing 4 or 5 people and then running into an old raid and steamrolling through it anyway. It's not difficult. LFR is not difficult to begin with, much like running an old raid with 3 or 4 level 90s isn't.
Do that many people want to do that? Like, haven't they run them to death?
Some people have, some people haven't. Like, there's still new players that come into World of Warcraft. There's lots of people who never experienced, like, Karazhan, when Karazhan was current content. Lots of people never had a chance to experience. I would love to go back to Karazhan and do that again. Like, I miss running Karazhan. That was a lot of fun. And having the tight-knit, sort of interesting... I don't know, I like stuff. Like, personally, I'd like to see it as a 5-man raid, but... I don't know.
That's not happening, Josh Allen. It's been very clear.
I keep wanting to drop super secret
5.4.
hints, but
maybe in 5.4.
Hold off.
Yes, hold off. Keep loose lips sink ships. Remember that shit.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting if that is what the big secret is. I think it's going to be quite interesting to see what the community thinks of something like that. I think it's going to be quite divided. I guess you will have some people who are excited about it, and then you're going to have a lot of the community that kind of just goes, "But I did that content. Like, this is a big thing. Like, you're going to send me back to do old stuff that I did a lot. Like, why is that cool?"
And that's exactly what Ghostcrawler said in his tweets. He was like, "It's going to be something that a lot of people say this is amazing, and a lot of people say, wait, that's it? That's your big announcement?" So. I think that's what it is. I think it's scaled content for old raids or old content of some fashion. I think that's what it's going to be.
All right, you're usually pretty good at this tinfoil hat stuff, so I'm going to say you're right. It's fact, internet fact. All right, let's move on. We need to move on. Definitely go check out both of those interviews if you want to hear more. They're very in depth and very good. This week marked the start of the heroic progression in tier 15. So let's check in on the world first race. So in 25-man, Method and Blood Legion have basically tied for first at 8 of 13 bosses down. Method seems like they may be overtaking Blood Legion, though. They were behind for a while, but boo.
I'm a Blood Legion fan.
They were behind for a while, but they actually managed to grab the world first Primordius kill a few hours before Blood Legion. So this is just the first couple of days here. How do you guys think things are going to go from here? Are the Europeans just going to overtake the North Americans again, despite the time difference?
I think there's a very real possibility that Method got that kill while Blood Legion was sleeping. I was looking at the time. I don't want to sound like, oh, Method, whatever. They only got it because Blood Legion was sleeping or something like that. Because obviously Method is a good raiding guild, and anybody who says otherwise is not paying attention. But how many tiers have they got in World First? Yes, obviously. So, but at the same time, it was something where I know that Blood Legion got the first Darumu at like 8 o'clock this morning, my time, which would have been like 5 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. And that was after, like, I don't believe they had actually slept since the instance came out yet. So I would imagine shortly after that, they would have gone, all right, well, we did good. Let's take a nap for a little bit and be back. There was actually about a 12-hour gap between their Darumu kill and their Primordius kill, too, for Blood Legion. So it seems quite possible that they decided it was time to take a quick nap.
A little refresh, a little recharge, get back into the fight, into the fray.
Yeah. It's possible. I think it's going to... Well, and always the first few bosses, like Blood Legion is ahead because they got a whole lot of world firsts, but they got a lot of those world firsts before it was even available in Europe, because the first few bosses, like Jinrock, it's funny if you look at WoW Progress, everyone who killed Lei Shen week 1, there's like 20 guilds that haven't killed Jinrock at this point. They killed Lei Shen week 1. It's kind of funny. Jinrock appears to just be sort of a gimme.
Immortal.
Well, the opposite of that, he just falls over. He just dies right away. But after that, it seems like Blood Legion just started. They like cleared through a whole bunch of stuff before the patch was even out before heroics were even out in Europe. And so Method's been catching up super fast. All things like the fact that they are in second now at this point is pretty nuts. So who knows? Maybe Method's just on a ridiculous clip now, and they're just gonna be like, all right, these extra 5 bosses, whatever. We just kill all those too. Why not?
Looking at 10-man once again. Dream Paragon is in the lead. Surprise, surprise. Also with 8 bosses down. There's a much bigger gap between first and second here, though. There's a guild named Moons, MOONZ, at only 4 bosses down. What do you think about that? After all the fuss about how 25-man rating was dying off, we're still not seeing much competition in the 10-man heroic progression here.
World second, only 4 bosses down, 10 mans are dying.
Yeah. The thing about 10 mans is they're inherently harder. I mean, granted they tune differently, but you have less people to pull from. You have less utility there to bring to an encounter. So I think it's perfectly natural to see 10-man struggling a little bit. I think it's perfectly natural to see a little bit of difference between where they're at versus where the 25-mans are at.
Schaffnit, I have a song for you that I need to... Oh, I can't play it because my tablet's dead.
You can't play it? Hang on. We can do a song? Dead. Hang on.
No, that's not...
He's getting his guitar. I'm getting my Ocarina app.
No, I was gonna... I was...
You gonna play a song?
I was gonna play taps for him. Can you play taps on your guitar?
No. How does it go?
I don't...
Just sing.
It wasn't that kind of a song.
Schaffnit got the first 3 notes. That was enough. That was enough.
Yeah, okay. No, basically, now that you've said that 10-mans are inherently harder, you are going to get killed by the entire internet. That's a topic that I will not touch. I will not talk about whether 10s or 25s are more difficult. The internet is now going to murder you.
Don't say that.
That's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Rest in peace.
Internet fact. All right, there's one other interesting bit of news. Sorry, now my headphones are all effed up. I'm playing guitar. There's one other interesting bit of news here that may end up having an effect on the world first race. We've talked a lot about Raiden. You know, swings that sword around a lot and slashes cars. Kojima.
I thought we were talking about Raiden from Mortal Kombat, but
oh, I forgot about that one. No. Is it Raiden? You say Raiden, I say
it's Raiden. It's Raiden.
They've said it like it seems like it's supposed to be Raiden because it's like he was where the Thunder King got his thunder powers from. So it seems like it's supposed to be Raiden.
Thunder,
Mortal
Kombat.
But Blizzard, Raiden. Like Dave Kosak kept saying Raiden. So it's
Raiden. He did say Raiden.
Did you guys not Do you not get your own joke? Didn't you make that joke?
Dan.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be Raiden. I'm calling him Raiden.
I'm going to blame it on Ion. All right. So
Because back forward.
Raiden, the shrouded in mystery 13th heroic boss. Unfortunately, it seems that Blizzard just can't stop leaking info about him.
He's super secret, but we're gonna tell you everything.
It's like you, Schaffnit. You just get all, loose lips and just start blabbing all over the place and just can't help himself. He's just like, oh my God, that's everybody. So the limited attempts were already leaked as part of the PTR testing. We knew that much. But last week, the web team had a bit more of an oopsie. Little oopsie. They posted his dungeon journal to the official World of Warcraft armory. Whoops! Sorry! Sorry, didn't mean to do that. There was just a little slip up. We were gonna do that, but we just gotta show the dungeon journal. We posted it,
In other news, Blizzard is hiring for their development team and hired one person.
Yes. So they obviously pulled this down really quickly, but pretty much, it's the internet. The damage is done. The info's out in the wild. Everybody knows. Now, the big question here is, how does that affect the race?
It'll definitely save the top guilds a few attempts. Like, from the looks of things, there wasn't too much in the way of mechanics in there. It doesn't seem like he was going to be too hard of a fight to figure out. So I kind of felt like Raiden was going to die week 1 anyway. Maybe week 2. This could be the difference that pushes it from a week 2 kill to a week 1 kill, though. It could be something that says, well, we don't have to pull him now to figure out what he does. We just know. So
isn't Raiden a limited attempt boss, though?
Yeah, 30 attempts. But he's not. He was supposed to be difficult, and this was something that Ian Hazzikostas was talking about when the limited attempts came out. He was supposed to be difficult, or when the knowledge of the limited attempts came out. He was supposed to be difficult because of the limited attempts and the limited amount of time that you had to spend learning him, not because of his mechanics. His mechanics were supposed to be relatively simple. It's just a matter of figuring out those mechanics. Like, it was seriously supposed to be, you don't know what he is, so you don't know what he does because there's no dungeon journal, so you have to pull him to find out what his mechanics are before you can kill him. And now it's like, whoops, actually now you know what his mechanics are.
I mean, minus the dungeon journal, though, couldn't the same thing be said for Heroic Lich King? That was where the difficulty lied in mastering him, was because he only had 5, 10, 15 attempts. It grew.
No. Heroic Lich King was hard because of Defile, because of the Valkyries, because of all of the mechanics on the fight. He was actually a very, very difficult encounter, and then he had limited attempts on top of that. From what they were saying regarding Raiden, Lei Shen was supposed to be the sort of Lich King corollary in terms of mechanics, in that Lei Shen is supposed to be a really, really hard fight to get through mechanically. Raiden is supposed to be something that's tough because you only have so many pulls, more like Algalon, where Algalon you only had an hour every week to actually work on him. His mechanics were stupid. Like, he barely even had any mechanics. It was just step in the thing sometimes so you don't die. There you go. Done. Problem solved. But it was hard because you only had a limited amount of time to work on him. It seemed like that was what they were going for with Raiden. And I think that now that the dungeon journal information is out there, to where the guilds, these World Pro guilds, I mean, what are they? Is Blood Legion gonna not look at this? No, of course. As soon as that info was out there, they were going over it and writing things down and working out a strategy for it.
But Josh, you bring up a really good point. You were talking about how difficult the mechanics were, and there was so many variations and stuff like that of different things. But on this, sorry, I was trying to think of a funny way to say Raiden, but I'll just go with Raiden. There were only actually a few mechanics listed on this. I mean, do you think he has like 5 abilities, or is it just not? Is it not finished, or did they not include everything in the dungeon journal? Because it seems kind of basic what they actually got leaked.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it seems like his mechanics are just really, really simple. So it's going to be something where now that they don't have to spend those few attempts figuring out what he does, then yeah.
What if this was the best Blizzard prank ever, and those mechanics are actually wrong?
That would be awesome.
Yes.
I'd do it if I was Blizzard. You kidding me? I'd be like, oh yeah, Yeah, you
We
guys.
thought this was gonna be difficult, but take that. Now it's even harder. Waste your attempts. It'd be great.
It would be awesome. That would be awesome. All right, but we gotta move on.
There would be so many tears. So many tears.
That's what you get for cheating. Shouldn't have been looking at the abilities beforehand.
That would
That
be
we showed you
brilliant.
guys.
If that's not the case, Blizzard should definitely be doing that sometime in the future. Put that in your back pocket and just wait just a little too long so nobody realizes what you're doing, and just pull that one out and just take that Schaffnit idea and go with it.
It's
All right, let's
yours.
move on. There actually was some PvP news this week as well. So first off, PvP season 13 is now underway. PvPers are happy, and there's been remarkably very little drama sweeping around so far. Seriously, what the F? Are we missing something? Like, did we actually have a decent start to a PvP season that we don't have a whole heck of a lot to talk about?
Don't pretend like in the weeks to come it's not going to wildly spin out of control, because it will. So let's just take this moment of silence and think.
Well, I mean, but nobody's managed to like get a hold of the best season 13 weapons so far or something like that. Nobody's already at 5K rating. That doesn't seem to be. I don't know. I think 2 days it's a short amount of time. Like, it's only been out since Tuesday, so it's still a short amount of time. But I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh yeah, okay. Like I was going through, I was making the rundown and everything, right? I was like getting the topics ready for the show. I'm like, okay, yeah. And the PvP season's going to come out, so there's going to be some sort of drama. Like I just, in the back of my mind, I knew that there was going to be some sort of topic for that. I already had it like at a space set for it in the show. And then there was nothing. It was like, wait, there's no drama to talk about? There's no, what? What is this?
Weirdness. Well, if you guys remember, we started talking about, you guys remember Brian Holinka? We talked about him, I think, about a week or two ago. Last week. That was last week we talked about him. He's the Blizzard new senior PvP designer. I think we're going to see a lot of this guy. So he jumped onto Twitter. He said, we acknowledge that many people want skirmish back. It was more forgotten than removed. It will come back, but not in 5.3. So there you have it. Finally, some confirmation skirmishes are in fact coming back to WoW. How did they forget about them? Like, like we have so many things of like, you know, just systems and game styles and oh shit, I forgot about that skirmish thing.
Well, I mean,
I can't find my glasses. Oh, they're on my head.
Oh.
They did originally say, like, when skirmishes were first removed, they were like, oh, well, we just didn't have space in the UI for them. Like, that's why you took out skirmishes?
Really?
You couldn't fit a button in?
But seriously, this is interesting for a few reasons. I mean, first, why are they such a big deal? Olivia has been super excited for them. She's not here to talk about them, which is very sad. But what is the big deal?
I think it's just something that people like to be able to get in and just do some practice arenas, like without having to worry about the pressure of where my rating is and stuff like that. It's like StarCraft, Heart of the Swarm just came out, added unranked play.
What's that?
So many people all of a sudden have been like, I'm going to start playing StarCraft now because it's unranked play. I don't have to worry about my ranking. I can just play a game. And like League of Legends, there's ranked play, there's unranked play. So many more people play the unranked version. I think this is just literally what that is like people don't want to queue up for something if they feel like they've got something on the line. They don't want to go in and be like, well, I don't know if I'm going to win the next match, so I might lose some points. I don't want to lose points. That's bad.
And skirmishes are a good place for experimentation when you're talking with a friend or maybe wanting to try out a different, talent set or kind of trying to figure out where your synergy works. It doesn't necessarily offer the best in terms of opposing team compositions because you get a lot of people that are maybe either inexperienced or maybe trying something new out as well. But that's where it lets people kind of experiment and learn to try out these new tactics to take to the rated arenas.
Do you think Blizzard's kind of hinted and teased the idea of unranked arenas for quite a while? I mean, do you think this is part of that? Or at least maybe like some major changes to how teams are going to work in Arena?
I'm still hoping that they just take what StarCraft did and put it in World of Warcraft. The StarCraft ladder system, especially now that they have unranked play, it's such a beautiful thing. It works so well. Put that in arenas. Just copy, paste. I know that's how the code works. That's how programming is, right?
That's how it works. Yeah.
Control V. There you go. It's done.
Yeah. Game to game. It's done. There you go. No, but I get the philosophy behind it. No, sure. If they, when, I guess now I should say when they come back, because I should say if they come back, because it sounds like they're definitely coming back. I mean, do you think that they'll come back just as they were before, kind of like a practice, just basically for practice, or do you think they'll actually add in like a reward system or something like that?
I think they should. I think they should come back as practice. Because of the reasons I stated previously. But if they want to add in a reward system to it, I think they could maybe try and adopt something similar to their raiding tier system. We already have 3 raid tiers, and we really only have 1 PvP tier and then like a better weapon. So maybe it's a way of integrating 2 sets of PvP tiers that can give people a little bit of gear without the stress of arenas. I'm going to ignore it this time.
What do you think, Josh?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think there should be some little bit of a reward to it, just because I feel like the game does desperately need that unranked thing. But if there's no point to it, people won't do it. That's how we've seen that time and time again in MMOs, especially. If you don't get something out of it, doesn't matter how much you enjoy it, you won't do it. I mean, look at pet battles. All of a sudden, so many more people are doing pet battles because you can get lesser charms from them instead of having to run dailies. All of a sudden, people are doing pet battles and going, "This is a lot of fun. I like doing pet battles." They would have liked them before too, but they didn't do them because there wasn't any reward. I do feel like there needs to be a little bit of reward for it, but I feel like it can sort of fall. Like I could see skirmishes being to arenas what random battlegrounds are to rated battlegrounds. You get honor for them and maybe a little bit of conquest points for winning, and that's like a very small amount of conquest points for winning, and that's it. And if you really desperately want to run like 400 skirmishes in a week to get your conquest cap, then sure, you can do that. It'll be a lot faster and more efficient, and you would have to be seriously hardcore about being casual to actually get your cap the other way, so you might as well just do the actual arenas. But I do think that there should be a little bit of a reward system to it, and I think that having them be that sort of corollary to what random battlegrounds are would make a lot of sense.
All right, let's do some viewer questions and get the F out of here. So, like every single week, if you guys watch Legendary, we answer your viewer questions right here on Legendary. You can send them over to submit@gamebreaker.tv. That's the email address. Keep an eye on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/gamebreakertv, or our Twitter. And don't forget about the video questions. We love, love, love the video questions. Record yourself, post it up on the YouTube, and email us the link. Send it to submit@gamebreaker.tv, and we'll play it here on the show and answer your questions. So first up this week, this one is in from Stevan Zelik. And this is from Facebook. Just want to point that out, because Facebook is cool. Stevan says, should secondary professions like first aid, cooking, etc. be shared between your characters, with daily quests tied to them also being shared, so you couldn't do same quests on multiple characters? What do you think, Josh?
Someone QQing about... Aw.
But I actually want to know what you were going to say now.
Go
for it.
Part of it sounds like he's QQing about not wanting to do daily quests on multiple characters, not necessarily having, like, I don't know, just that last part. It's like, why? What does secondary professions have anything to do with daily quests being tied to your same character? But should secondary professions be shared between characters? Should they? In Blizzard's standpoint, I think it's no. I think there's definitely a reason as to why you need to take the time to level both for each characters, because each characters have individual professions that they need to take the time to learn. Would I like it to be that way? Yes, because I'm not taking the time to level cooking, first aid, and fishing on all my other characters. I'm only doing it once. So well, the thing I would take it time.
It's really just cooking that is the big one here. Like first aid is whatever. Like
Fishing is worse than cooking, in my opinion.
Fishing skill levels don't matter though. Is the thing. You fish from pools. You don't even need skill anymore. I have on my warlock. I have like 175 fishing because I never bothered to train the profession any higher, and I go do all my. I don't even have a fishing pole. I'm standing there with a stick poking at the fish in the water, and I get all my fish from it. I feel like fishing doesn't matter too much. There's no reason to share that one because there's no reason for the skill levels to even exist. They're pointless. First aid, I don't mind that's not shared between characters because to me that just feels like part of leveling your character. If it's a character that you want first aid on, then you level it up. And it's not like first aid is terribly important for any endgame content anyway. That's mostly like a questing thing. So that doesn't bother me too much. It's the cooking, I think, is the big one that people are looking at and saying, and maybe archaeology, that people are looking at and saying.
I haven't even started archaeology. I don't even want to think about it.
I think a lot of people don't want to think about archaeology, which is why we forget about it when we're talking about secondary professions. But yeah, I think cooking is the big one. And on the one hand, yeah, it'd be nice if it was shared between all characters. On the other hand, that would actually really screw with top-end rating right now. If you weren't, because the way it works right now is you have multiple alts to be able to get enough food to be able to, because you need the dailies, you need the farms going. If you raid like 4 or 5 days a week, it's really, really hard for you to get enough stuff to just often on one character to maintain the amount of food that you need, the 300 stat food that you need. So making that change might be nice from a convenience standpoint for a lot of people, and maybe it's something that they should do, but they would need to come up with a way to allow top-end rating to still have food, because that would be a problem.
Hashtag pro tip for leveling cooking, all you got to do is simply wait till Thanksgiving, and then you just skyrocket, and you can do the whole Thanksgiving event, and then you're at next level cooking, because that's what I did. So, pro tip.
All right, next up from Total Deletion. This one coming in from Twitter. Total Deletion says, is there really a need to grind mop reps on an alt now that we are in 5.2? Pros, cons. Josh Allen.
To get the 5.0 reps, I wouldn't say there's a need to. If you want to get your alt geared up as fast as possible, then you probably should. But if you have especially if you already have a character that has if we're talking an alt here, you already have the grand commendations, you can get those reps pretty quickly just by running a dungeon in a scenario because of the rep bonuses that were added in there. And depending on how much you can gear otherwise, like you can buy BOEs and stuff for your character off of, basically, as soon as you're geared enough for LFR, you're fine. It's just that question of that first initial period where you can get geared up enough to step into LFR. That's all I would really worry about. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to at all. There's no real reason to feel like you have to go out and grind up all those reputations.
What about the 5.1 storyline? I'm about halfway through it, and I just haven't gotten around to finishing it. Is that one worth seeing all the way to the end?
Oh, the storyline, yeah. The storyline in that is definitely worth. That was actually why I stuck through the 5.1 dailies, is because I thought the storyline was really, really good. So if you want to see the storyline, you can do it. But that's not something that's mandatory for a character. You don't need to know what happens with Garrosh to actually get into a raid instance.
All right, last up this week from Facebook, from Eric Contreras. He says, do you think we will ever see the return of the Valor to Conquest vendor? What do you guys think?
Nope.
Please no.
It just doesn't make much sense with how things are right now, especially since they've been doing a lot to try and get more people actually into PvP with how the changes are working with the conquest caps and everything. And we were just talking about the possibility of unranked play. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to then be able to say, also you could just do dailies and whatever else to get Valor and convert that into conquest. Doesn't make much sense.
Josh Allen, aka Lore. Follow him on the Twitter at Devilore. Go over to tankspot.com. Watch PST, the Weekly Marmot, and all that good stuff. And of course, go over to Zam.com as well as he eats. You bastard. You bastard. You just waited to the end of the show.
Waiting. He had that waiting.
He did have that waiting. Mike Schaffnit. Follow him on the Twitter at Mike Schaffnit. And of course, come over to GamerGrid.tv on Tuesdays to watch After Dark with Mike Schaffnit and Josh Allen, where they answer your questions live. It is a live call-in show where you call in They answer your questions. It's amazeballs. You can follow me on Twitter at Gary Gannon and follow Gabriel TV, Gabriel TV. And if you haven't heard, we've got new forms. Holy shit, guys. Who knew? When did we get new forms? We have new forms. Form.gamebreaker.tv. Come over and sign up right now. The show's over. You got nothing better to do. I'm kind of going into a Christopher Walken voice just for you.
I was noticing that.
I don't know why. It just gotta happen. I'm doing like some
why.
and I'm doing like some AMA thing over there. Go to like I'm doing like an AMA thing and answering questions. So go over to the general forum and ask questions, and I'll get back and answer your questions. I'll do that for the next couple days. Whatever you guys want to ask me, I'll answer. It's in the pub, I think. Is it the pub or the inn? I'm not used to them yet. It's in the pub.
You go to the pub, and that's where
I'll
answer
the pub and the things.
I just watched Communion again like a couple weeks ago. Amazing.
Great show.
Aliens. No, it was a movie, Schaffnit. It was a movie. Sorry. See you next week.
Whatever.